For the second time this month, WWE have decided to release a number of superstars from their contracts as the regular cuts of 2021 continue. Whenever there's a set of releases, rumors and speculation begins as to what's next for the wrestlers involved, with the majority of them often finding a home in another wrestling organization. As what is becoming a way too regular of a trend on this channel at this point, let's look at each of the individual releases and predict their future in wrestling outside of WWE. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. The Australian-born Shane Thorne started his wrestling career in his home country, where he trained at the Explosion Pro-Wrestling School before signing with them in 2013 and wrestling all over the country for the next 8 years. He would then move to California, where he began making a name for himself on the United States independent scene. That said, arguably his best run came in Pro Wrestling Noah, where he was one half of the TMDK tag team alongside Mikey Nichols. In 2015, both members of TMDK received WWE tryouts, and in 2016 they joined NXT as TM61. The pair continued to have several matches in NXT over the next couple of years before Mikey was released in late 2018 and the team was disbanded. A forgetful singles run followed for Shane Thorne before he was added as one of the members of the failed Retribution stable under the new name of Slapjack. Following the failure of that group, Shane would then find himself lost in the shuffle before he was released by WWE on November 18th. Following his release, Shane tweeted that he was grateful for his run in WWE, and he referenced his 90-day non-compete clause and called out an Explosion Pro Wrestling wrestler, Jesse Lambert. Judging from this post, it's possible that Shane may return to Australia to wrestle for his home promotion to help them grow. Born in Wales, Tegan Nox initially wanted to be a football or soccer player in her youth before a knee injury lost her a spot in the Wales under-16 squad. After finding a local wrestling school, she began to train as a pro wrestler, making her debut in the British promotion Attack Pro Wrestling in 2014, and stayed with the company for 3 years while simultaneously wrestling for other British promotions. She signed with WWE in 2017, but a series of injuries followed after her debut, halting her progress during her time competing in both NXT UK and NXT. She would receive a main roster call-up in July 2021, where she briefly teamed with Shotzi Blackheart before they were split in the 2021 draft shortly after. Following her move to the Raw brand, Tegan was released on November 18th before making a single appearance on her new show. Since being released, Tegan Nox has had a friendly exchange with fellow British wrestler Chris Brooks, which may mean that Tegan is heading back to the UK to work the independents. Alternatively, a surprise debut in AEW could be on the cards as Tony Khan seeks to expand his women's division. Once again working under the name of Nixon Newell, the talented performer is still only 27 and has a lot of potential should she be able to avoid her persistent injury problems. After serving in the Iraq War, Jaxson Ryker made his pro wrestling debut in 2001. He signed with the NWA in 2005 under the ring name of Phil Shatter and would go on to become the longest reigning NWA National Heavyweight Champion before signing with TNA Wrestling in 2010, where he changed his name to Gunner, a callback to his time serving as a machine gunner in the war. In 2017, it was announced that he had signed with WWE and he would debut in NXT. He would be featured as part of the trio Forgotten Sons and would remain in the tag division in NXT and during his main roster run. The patriotic faction's push on the SmackDown brand was quickly shut down after some controversial social media posts from Ryker surfaced. After a brief alliance/feud with Elias, Ryker was released, becoming the final Forgotten Son to be let go. Since his release, he has made clear that he plans to remain in the business, tweeting out that Gunner is reborn, and it's possible that he may see a return to Impact Wrestling, although he is equally likely to appear in NWA, where he had the most successful run of his career. Drake Maverick started his pro wrestling career competing in several British promotions under the name of Rockstar Spud. In 2012, he would join the developmental program for TNA and performed under several non-wrestling roles before wrestling and going on to win the X Division Championship twice. Rebranded Drake Maverick, he would sign with WWE in 2017 and was announced as the general manager of the 205 Live brand. Whilst he would go on to win championship gold on the main roster, his only title victories would take place in the 24/7 Championship division. He would then be released in April of last year before posting an emotional video to his social media accounts, which led to fans getting behind him before WWE re-signed him and turned it into a storyline on NXT. He would go on to form a lovable team with Killian Dane before his partner was released in June this year, before Maverick was drafted to Raw as part of the 24/7 Championship division once again, before being cut. Following his second WWE release in 19 months, he has once again posted a video on social media addressing his future, telling his former self that things will be okay. It's very likely that Spud will be rebuilt in one of real-life friend EC3's Free the Narrative events before a potential return to Impact Wrestling. After serving in the US military, Ashante the Adonis attended the University of Maryland, where he played Division I football. His wrestling career began after he started training in a local wrestling school owned by MCW Pro Wrestling, and in 2018 he made his debut in Ring of Honor, where he had a short run for 1 year. He was then invited to train with WWE's Performance Center, and he debuted on Raw in 2019 before he went on to compete as a singles wrestler in 205 Live, on SmackDown and on NXT, where he finally found a footing as a member of the popular stable Hit Row. On November 18th, barely a month after being called up to the main roster, the entire Hit Row stable was released, with the usual budget cuts being an excuse. Ashante is a relatively new pro wrestler and would probably be looking to perfect his craft with appearances on the indies with promotions like MLW or PWG, allowing him to gain more experience against top talent. After a 5-year career as a professional football player, Top Dolla decided to try out for wrestling in 2020. He would be signed with WWE in the January, and it would be more than a year before he made his TV debut in NXT. He would of course be aligned with Isaiah Swerve Scott, Ashante the Adonis, and B-Fab to form Hit Row. After a short but popular run in NXT, the group were promoted to the main roster in October 2021. A month later, on November 4th, B-Fab was released by WWE, and a few days later, on November 18th, the rest of the members were also released. In an interview, Top Dolla has gone on to say that the releases were shocking, as they were having talks about future projects, such as action figures, and being featured in WWE 2K22. Since his release, in trademark fashion, he released a small track referencing many promotions such as AEW, New Japan Pro-Wrestling, and Impact, and more. It seems that he still has his eyes set on continuing his wrestling career, although he will likely need more in-ring experience on the indies before making any major moves. The most experienced member of Hit Row, Isaiah Swerve Scott, has had quite a career in pro wrestling. He started when he was 18, 1 year into his military service. He would train and get booked in matches close to where he was stationed, whilst continuing to work as a signal communications specialist. After learning his craft, he competed in many popular independent promotions, including CZW, Evolve, NWA, Lucha Underground, and MLW. Having made a name for himself on the indies, he signed with WWE in 2019 and started training in the Performance Center. He debuted in NXT and would be a feature on the brand's Cruiserweight division before he would rise to prominence by winning the NXT North American Championship during his time in Hit Row. As mentioned, he was later released by WWE, but according to a report from Fightful Select, many major promotions are looking to sign Isaiah to a contract, with him seemingly not being short of offers. Returning to the name Shane Strickland, he no doubt has the talent to become a star anywhere he lands, with a move to AEW not out of the question. John Morrison started his pro wrestling career in 2002, winning WWE's Tough Enough competition before training in Ohio Valley Wrestling. Throughout his early WWE career, he would go on to win multiple championships, including the ECW, Intercontinental, and Tag Team Gold, before being released in late 2011. He would go on to wrestle for various promotions after his release, making waves in multiple top promotions, winning titles in Lucha Underground, AAA, and Impact Wrestling. Upon his return to WWE in 2019, he would reunite with The Miz, who he teamed with during his last stint with WWE. After Miz suffered an injury earlier this year, Morrison would go on a singles run before being attacked by a returning Miz, turning face in the process. He would ultimately be released before his singles career could truly pick up, with his age likely being a factor for the 42-year-old. An experienced and talented wrestler, it won't be surprising to see him sign with a major promotion like AEW, AAA, or even MLW as part of their Azteca Underground brand. A return to the main event scene in Impact could also be on the cards, with them adding more star power to the roster. And before you go, make sure you check out my video of the hottest upcoming free agents in wrestling, as many contracts that you need to know are set to expire.